Buenos dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it? You already know. Like a torta with some bad habits. Bye up, bye up. I feel good. Let's get to this intro. Welcome back to the channel. And if you haven't already hit that like and subscribe button, make sure you go ahead and do that. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content that I stay kicking. And I appreciate the support. It's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you without dope content to step two. We're back, man, and we're better than ever. And yes, man, it is so refreshing to be back. That was a nice little vacation. And guess what? Voila. Here's the gun, right? So I got to give my perspective and my take on things because, man, there's a lot that's been happening since I decided to step away for a second or two, right? And one thing that I noticed that's been happening that people have been in my DMs about continuously is John Diesel. Again, right? The border brother from Oakland, California. Now, look, John Diesel has said a lot about me. I mean, the disrespect has been crazy, right? He's made up stories about me. He said some facts, some truths. The man just does not like me. It's almost to the point of hating on me, right? But I've never hated that man. I've never really disrespected that man, if at all. I think I made one or two videos. One video was, who the fuck is he, right? And the second video was basically when one of his, I think his stepson or his son got shot. And I felt bad for the situation, right? What happened and what transpired. But he's been in the news lately, man. He's been circulating on social media because he said a story about a particular Norteño, Alibo from Hayward, and the No Paperwork podcast, which is a podcast comprised of alleged active Norteños, decided to blast John Diesel out the water. In fact, Alibo himself came on there and blasted John Diesel out the water. See, one thing I learned a long time ago is you need facts. You need proof. Without PW, without paperwork, then it's a no paperwork podcast, right? You can't just make accusations or tell stories on people because someone's going to call you on your bluff, right? That's just how it is, man. That's the reality of things, especially when you're running around talking about you're still in good standings and you're an active gang member or you're still participating in the shenanigans. Then you should know better, having been in prison, having lived that life, continuing to live that life, that you shouldn't run to social media or the internet to speak on people without facts, without proof, without paperwork, right? And that's what people are alleging John Diesel did. Now, let me explain to you about my history with John Diesel, because I don't just want to be talking to fucking talk, right? I'd say about a year and a half ago, maybe even 2 years ago, John Diesel reached out to me. And he was an avid watcher of my channel. And he was watching my videos like so many people do and enjoying the content, laughing and having a good time. And then I did a video speaking all facts, speaking all truths, man. And it was a video about when I was in the California Youth Authority, right? And when I was in the California Youth Authority, I was sent down south to Nellis. Being a Norteño at that time, an active Norteño, being sent down south was fucked up. Okay, it was bad. It was all bad. You knew you had fucking something coming. You had an issue coming. The Southsiders weren't going to make it easy. Sur gang, they weren't going to make it easy for you, right? Being in Norteño and Nellis, I remember the day that box slid under my door in NRCC in Dorm 1. NRCC was the Northern California Reception Center, basically where they sent you before they sent you to your main line, right? They had one down south called SRCC. That's where everyone from LA, basically from the 805, it was like the 805 was split. Bakersfield, half of Bakersfield went up north, half of Bakersfield went down south. That's just the way they did it, right? But they would slide this box under your door, and that was your transpac box. That means you were transferring out. You were going to get on the Gray Goose. They're going to shackle you up, or the green Goose at that time, right, in YA, and take you to whatever facility. Now, just because you were from up north didn't mean you stood up north. And just because you were from down south didn't mean you stood down south. You went wherever the fuck they wanted to send you, wherever your your counselor decided was the best fit for you, that's where you went, right? And so I caught that green dick. That's what they call it, the green dick, all the way down south to Southern California to Whittier, where the girls are prettier. Sur gang, right? And I was in Nellis, and I was on my shit. I was on my toes. I was involved in a lot of situations. Well, I told a story about a situation that involved a BB. See, I've only been locked up in the youth authority with 2 BBs. BBs are Border Brothers. It's a gang out of Oakland, California, out of the gay area again, right? That's where they're from. And what's different about this particular Mexicano gang is they go at it with Norteños and Southsiders in the streets, but they have been known to function under Southern rule or with Southerners while incarcerated, right? But look, that ain't all it is, right? And I know John Diesel doesn't like it, but I speak fucking for reals when I say that there has been instances where Border Brothers have functioned with Norteños in the youth authority because of the numbers game. And when the numbers were different, then different things happened, right? Then they functioned with someone else. I guess that was the great thing about being from that particular group, because you really had no allegiance to anyone. You could kind of go with the numbers, go with the flow, right? And so that's where this story leads me to. And this is where my interaction with John Diesel happens. I thought, little did I know, I was actually locked up in the youth authority with John Diesel. See, he remembers me a lot more than I remember him for some reason. And I guess that's because, hey, you always remember the person who's doing more than you are, right? So in this particular, but in this case, neither one of us were doing shit. I'm just going to keep it real. Hey, I'm tired of these lies and this bullshit. Let's just keep it fucking real, right? He wasn't doing shit there, and I wasn't doing shit at that particular time there. And I'll explain to you guys why. But I told a story when I was in Nellis. The tensions were up with North and South, right? And in this particular situation, we had a few little melees on the compas, which are the buildings, and enough was enough. There was enough Northerners there, we felt, where we can now take the initiative. These guys had constantly been getting off on us, rushing us, snaking on us behind the bend. We were taking L's left and right, and we didn't have the numbers. It was like 400 or 500 Southsiders to 20 Northerners. So when we started to accumulate numbers, they started to bring buses, and not buses of fish, not people that were wet behind the motherfucking ears. They started to bring people that were seasoned and more established, people that had been to OH Close, Preston, DeWitt Nelson, Carl Holton. When these particular guys started to come, you can see the shift in the mentality of the Norteños that were there. There was only a few of us standing strong and holding it down. And believe me, it hurt, right? It hurt bad. But they started to bring these other Northerners that were like not about just sitting there getting jumped on and getting rushed. Ones that wanted to kick it off. They wanted to fucking get off where they were mad at. Because we were all under the assumption that the more fucking pressure we applied, the more shit we got involved in, eventually they'd get tired of us and they'd ship us out back up north, back home, right? And so a homeboy comes along named Spooky from Salas, who's pretty legendary and known throughout the California prison system and the youth authority. And on the streets, he's from Casitas, a gang out of Salas. And there's no one that could deny Spooky was with the business, is with the business, right? He's like a brother of mine, man. We did a lot of time together, and we got a lot of respect and love for each other. We backed each other's play in a lot of situations. We just hit it off, man. Sometimes you just run into a homeboy that has a mentality like yours. It's like, fuck it, let's get off. So when Spooky came, that was a win-win situation for me because we had the same mentality. Our focus was to get off on as much Southerners as we could to get the fuck up out of there. It wasn't personal. With Spooky, it was. With me, it wasn't. I didn't hate Southsiders. I just hated the situation I was in. Wanted to get the fuck on, right? He didn't like Southerners. He had a lot more interaction with them than I did. So his distaste and his hate for Southsiders was real, right? So anyways, he gets there and he's like, fuck this shit. Let's kick it off. Kicking it off meant we're going to get off. We're going to create a melee or riot, whatever. So we gathered up a lot of Norteños. A lot of Huilas went out to the different compas. At that time, I think we were on 3 or 4 different buildings. And we all got together on the same page. It's like, hey, me and Spooky are going to kick it off. Wherever you guys are at, just get off, bro. If you're outnumbered, just do your thing. It doesn't matter, right? So they had built a quad area, which is like basically a big open area. So the way the classes were, they had a couple portable buildings, and then they kind of there was a little hill where it went up, and the classes were elevated, right? There was a quad area. It was all concrete. It was like a main area, Then you'd walk behind a bend and you kind of had to go with the flow of traffic. That's just how the school area was. A lot of more riots happened in the school area than anywhere, just because you had a lot more action and a lot more people. Plus, there was a lot of compas buildings that did not have Norteños on their building. They wanted first crack at us. They wanted to get off because they didn't have too much action in the buildings we were on. Now, the buildings we were on, we fought behind the blinds. We had riots. It was kind of like a situation where it was like enough was enough. But in the school area, it was open season. And so there was a lot of fights every day, every time. Not only just North and South, you had Crips and Bloods, you had Bloods and Southsiders, Crips and Southsiders. Like everybody was fucking, that was gangbanging in the 90s. Everybody was trying to earn their stripes. Everybody was fighting, right? So anyways, the story that I told is facts. It's truth, man. And I know John Diesel didn't like it, but hey, I didn't mean it to disrespect this homeboy at all. And I don't mean to tell you this, reiterate this story to disrespect this homeboy at all. But it just was what it was. You know, you can't take W's all the time, man. Sometimes you take L's. Sometimes it is what it is. Now, subsequently, the guy who's in this story, the BB, the border brother, has passed away, man. Rest in peace. I send my condolences to his family, to his friends, man. And it's not meant to defecate on his name or defame whatever gangster he was, but this is facts and truth, right? So when we're in the school area that particular day, I wanted to kick it off, but Spooky's like, fuck that, I'm doing it, right? You don't argue with Spookio. He was a straight up savage, right? Like, all right, bro, if that's what you want to do. He had dug up this big ass rock. It was like a boulder that he had dug up and he had placed in the school area. He had dropped it right there in this little spot where he knew. And he was like, look, we're going to catch these guys right as they start to go in the bend. They're going to turn their back on us. We're getting off. Now, mind you, the Southerners were always on their toes, but this day we caught them. We got lucky, right? That's just the only way I could explain it. They weren't on their shit like they usually were on their shit because nothing had been really happening. It was a sneak attack, right? Chess, not checkers. And so there was a guy, he was kind of tall, and I hadn't seen him before. You know, there was so many Southerners there. They'd come, they'd leave. I knew a few of them. I knew the ones that I knew, that I was on buildings on with, but I didn't know this one, right? And he was a tall dude. He just had a different look, right? And Spooky's like, hey, I'm going to get that dude. I'm going to crack him first. He was going to hit him in the face with the boulder. And I was like, why that one in particular? He was like, because I was in OH clothes with that fool. That fool's a BB. And I said, what's that? Up until that point, I didn't even know what that was. He said, Border Brothers from Oakland. I said, oh, I thought they were Southsiders. I said, oh, that's right. You know, because there were so many different barrios I learned about. I didn't know I didn't know White Fence from Florencia. I didn't know Pomona 12th Street Sharkies from fucking Dog Patch. Like I knew there were different barrios, but I didn't know who was from what, right? Unless I knew him personally. He was like, nah, that vato was in OH clothes with us, bro. He was kicking it with the homies. Like he was cool with the homies. There was no issues. And now he's down here running with Southsiders. Fuck that, right? Which later on, come to find out, you know, look, Border Brothers are about their business, man. No disrespect to their vato out there in Oakland. You know, you got to be some motherfucking thugs to be going at it with everyone, North and South, and to be in the center and surrounded by everyone. Got to give them their respect. But everybody knows, man, that's been around Border Brothers or that knows about them. Them dudes in Oakland were not out there fucking gang banging like that, shooting them up, bang, bang. They'll handle their business for sure. But they were more D-boys. They had it going on. They had all the connections. They were doing their thing, right? Everyone knew the BBs got that work, right? They had that work. That's the truth. That's the facts. And Norteños were like gang banging. Southsiders were gang banging. BBs were serving, right? They were serving everyone. They had the connects. It's just what it is. Mexicanos usually got it like that. Anyways, Spooky walks up. I walk up. Spooky hits this guy with the rock. A riot kicks off. Okay, dude's fucking kind of disorientated, and then whatever happens. Okay, the artist formerly known as Prince, right? He did the symbol on him. Now, that doesn't mean that dude was a punk or he was a sucker or nothing like that. He just got snaked on. He didn't see it coming. And it was what it was. And I told that story. So John Diesel gets a hold of me and reaches out to me. And I shoot him my phone number. This was about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. And he reaches out to me. And the first thing he says, look, I got to keep it real. I'm not going to lie here about John Diesel and put anything on his name like he's done me. See, I'm not a fucking bitch like that. I'm not going to lie about someone and say they were Levon, they were punks, and they were this. That's your fucking bitch-ass coward move, fucking John Diesel, not me, right? Real shit. I'm going to tell you guys the facts. He calls me, and he's like, hey, Gun. And I'm like, yeah, what's up? And he was like, yeah, I'll be watching your channel shit. He's like, hey, this story, bro, you know, my homeboy passed away. And I was like, Spencer, you know, I didn't know, bro. And, you know, that was my only interaction with that dude. I don't know what happened after that day. He was like, yeah, man, I kind of feel fucked up about that story because it's making my homeboy look bad. Look, I can't make your homeboy look bad. He didn't make himself look bad either. He just happened to be the victim that day. You don't know how many times I got hit with a rock, or I got battery packed, or I got hit with a fucking board by Casper from Playboys, knocked my ass out, or I got stabbed, or whatever happened to me. And it just is what it is. That was part of gangbanging. Shit happens. You can't win them all. You can't be a fucking superhero, right? I am Batman. I am Border Brother. No, you can't be that shit. You just are what you are. And we talked it out and whatever, man. And I was like, it just was what it was. I kind of told him the story, and that was that, right? Well, he ended up calling me a lot. We had a lot of interaction, a lot of text messages, a lot of phone calls. I thought it was cool. And he was like, I'm thinking about starting a YouTube channel and shit. I said, yeah, that's what's up, bro. And if you guys remember, that's when about the time he started it with the fucking fake ass dollar bill in the background with he always had the fucking, what is it? Smoke detectors going off in the back, and you could hear the fan. It was all fucked up. Now his channel's more put together, but back then he was just getting on, right? And I warned him. I was like, hey, bro, if you're still active and in the mix, because he said, I'm still in the mix. And now the whole time, I'm not active. But remember, I'm not a BB. I'm not a dropout Border Brother. I'm not a non-active Norteño. So his interaction with me, I'm not questioning it. You could talk to whoever you want to, but you know better. Having been in prison and you're making videos about 50-50 yards and SNY yards and dropouts this and degenerates that, but you're over here calling me. I wasn't calling you. You were calling me. Whatever. You're not the only one, buddy, right? And so he's talking to me and whatever, and we're cool. And he's like, hey, bro, you remember Tioga? And I was like, what? And then I started to recollect who he was. He was like, yeah, bro, because you got to understand the way John Diesel acts again, and this, and that, and this, and that. Bro, I don't know when that shit started, but when I was in the youth authority with this man, and I know who he is, I was on Tioga Hall in Carl Holton, which was a drug program facility, meaning everybody there had a drug program. Now, I don't know if John Diesel had a drug program because he was on that shit, or he did like I did and try to manipulate the system to get less time and just fucking cop more, right? But he was in that drug facility with me. Now, it was a whole bunch of fucking J-Cats there, and there was a whole bunch of real motherfuckers there, but that's what it was. There's no denying it. We were in the same boat, just from different sides. I remember John Diesel. He was a BB. Yes, he was. And he was kicking it with the Southerners. He wasn't putting in no work. He wasn't fighting no one. He was playing handball and kicking it with the Southerners, and that's about it. And that particular compa, there was about 40 fucking Southsiders, maybe 30 Southsiders, 40 Northerners, and then a few Bulldogs sprinkled in, and whoever else, Crips and Bloods or whatever, right? It wasn't that many people. Maybe it could be less. Maybe like 20 Northerners and 15 Southerners. But nobody was doing shit there. Everybody was programming, trying to get out. John Diesel included. Nobody was Levi. He wasn't Levi. I wasn't Levi. I had my homeboys. He knows who they are. He had his homeboys. I know who they are. And that's exactly what went down. So we never had a negative interaction. So when he was like, hey, bro, I'm going to do this video. I see you're blowing up on YouTube. I'm going to tell the story about us being in YA together. I said, yeah. I said, you should wait on that one, bro, until, you know what I'm saying, you get a little established, and then you could do it. Well, one day I get a phone call from him, and he knew that I talked to a particular rapper. I'll just say that, right? And I didn't put the rapper's name out there like that. We just had conversations behind the scenes. He was like a mentor of mine or whatever. He's cool, right? And John knew, and he was like, hey, bro, hook me up with old boy. Hook me up with old boy. Now, I wouldn't have no problem putting him up with homeboy, right? But at the same time, I can't throw homeboy's name just out there like that. John knows too who he is, and he knows what it is, right? So I couldn't do that. And so I asked the homeboy, like, hey, bro, and he was like, I don't want anyone to know about nothing. I said, all right, cool. It wasn't disrespect to John Diesel. It was just the homeboy didn't want his shit thrown out there. Didn't want his number given to anyone or his name. You know what I mean? And so John Diesel got a little upset. And then next thing you know, he felt like, I guess I played him, like I wouldn't hook him up with old boy. So now videos started coming out about me talking shit when I was in YA. I was Lev, I was a punk, I was this, I was that. You know damn well that ain't the case. Damn well that ain't the case. Look, I never disrespected that dude, man. That's why I stopped helping motherfuckers, because every time you help someone, look at what happens. Every fucking time, right? Anyways, John Diesel was not no punk, right? I didn't know him to run his mouth. I didn't know him to do that. But he got bit by the jitterbug. He got bit by the jitterbug, which is the YouTube bug. Once you start to gain a little notoriety and I guess fame on YouTube, motherfuckers start talking about shit they shouldn't talk about. And they just keep on going. Look, I'm a non-active gang member, man. I understand with whatever I say, there comes a repercussion. I understand that. I understand that when I tell my super Norteño stories and my super stories, people feel some type of way because they believed every single little word, right? I believe there's repercussions for every action, and I'm going to live with that. But at the end of the day, when you're an active gang member, you know, and you've been in prison, you functioned at a level that you say you have, you know better than to come on talking about people without paperwork. You know better than to come on talking about situations you shouldn't be talking about. But hey, it's funny that when you're in good standings, you can get away with a whole lot. And then the dude, but constantly, oh, these dudes are dropouts. They don't count. They don't count. What the fuck you telling for then? Get the fuck out of here, right? So anyways, I see that this John Diesel makes up this story about Alibo. Now, whether the story is made up, Alibo is a rapper from Hayward, California. Now, whether he's a Norteño, allegedly active, whether this story is made up or this shit really happened, John Diesel put a story out there basically that Alibo was telling on his peoples, right? And Alibo has denied the claims. There's no paper, nothing. And then it looked like kind of John Diesel kind of backed off that situation, stopped talking about it, made excuses about it. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say that John Diesel's a liar or that his stories aren't true. I still got a little bit of respect for that dude, man. He's intelligent. Just that little act he puts on, again, all that. Again, all that weird shit. I'm cool with all that, bro. That wasn't you and why. And why you was a normal motherfucker just being regular, bro. You know, I don't know what happened from that time to that time, but that's not how that man was acting incarcerated. Not at all. He was just chilling with his homies and that's it. Not putting in no work, not having work put in him. Now, understand, I was only right there in that particular compa with him. I don't know what he did up to that point. I only could speak on what I did up to that point, right? And that's it, which wasn't a whole lot. Just some fights and a couple little stabbings, and then it was what it was. I had to survive. Had to survive at South Whittier, right? Now, or East Whittier, actually. Anyways, that's what it was. I don't know, man. I just wanted to put that out there because a lot of people are speaking on John Diesel. I think he knows what situation he's put himself in. This is between him and the active Norteños. And of course, man, he doesn't get along with active Norteños on the streets. So he's going to, of course, have something bad to say. I don't know if he's conforming or trying to, you know, sur gang, get in their pockets and show off for them or whatever he's trying to do. But at the end of the day, that's his story. He's going to tell it. He's going to deal with the repercussions for that story. I know he doesn't give a fuck. Most people don't. They talk their shit to talk their shit. But don't let this YouTube shit get to you, man. You know, it just trips me out, all these guys that are supposedly in good standings and they're righteous and they're just saying more than dudes that are not active are saying. You ever notice that? It's weird, right? Anyways, with that being said, I want to throw the story out there because people are asking, do you know John Diesel? Yes, I was locked up with him. I don't know him personally, like we're friends. He did have my number. He did call me. Don't deny it, John, because I got all the text messages in the phone logs, bro. Don't act like you weren't calling me over and over again, bro. Keep it real. Keep it real, right? And don't say, oh, I didn't know you was not active because, you know, our first conversation was the video. You say, everyone knows. I've said it since my first video that I was not active. I laugh when people fucking get a hold of me like, I didn't know you were not active. Motherfucker, I didn't even know who you are. Shut up, right? Stop it, bro. I'm not hiding nothing from nobody, man. It just is what it fucking is, right? Anyways, man, as far as John Diesel and the versus the Norteños and all that goes, that's on him, man. That's on him. That's gangbanging, I guess. If you want to be all damn near 50 years old, still out there again trying to gangbang, fuck, that's on you, man. You live by the gun, you're probably going to die by it. But as far as me, I'm cool, man. I got other shit going on. With that being said, thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive for what I truly believe in, and that's the betterment of all people. For those that are asking, am I going to go live? Am I going to be consistent? Bet you I am. Bet you.